Now to language for process questions. So in a process, you have to describe the stages or steps to how something is made. This can be a natural process, like the life cycle of a salmon, or it can be a man-made process, like how tomato ketchup is produced. In either cases, you need a mix of sequencing language and composition language. So let's revisit composition language that we've covered previously. So they are very useful for pie charts, but they're also really useful in process questions, particularly when it comes to writing your overviews. So they can be split into active and passive, and based on that, you decide which one you want to use. So for the salmon life cycle, because this is a natural process, we use the active voice. So you would, for example, say the salmon life cycle comprises of 6 main stages. So that would be your overview. Or for the man-made process, because it's man-made, you would use the passive voice, and you could say the process of producing tomato ketchup is composed of 3 main steps. Now, sequencing language is extremely important for process questions because you're talking about how something is made or how something is done, and because of that, you do need to order the stages in a methodical way, and that's where sequencing language comes in. You need to also remember that to get a band 7 in coherence and cohesion, one of the main requirements is to connect your ideas smoothly on a sentence level. So sequencing language will do that for you perfectly when it comes to process questions. So it can be split up into 4 different categories, and it can be the first stage, the once after the first stage, the final stage, and when 2 things are happening at the same time. So here are all the sequencing language that you need. Put them in the right category for me. Let's have a look at the answers now. So the first stage would be initially, to begin with, or you can say to start with. The first step is that, first of all, or firstly, the process begins with. And then for the next stages, you can use these. The final stage would be the last step is, and finally. And when 2 things are happening at the same time, so you could say that at the same time, meanwhile, and as this is happening. So you can now do an exercise for me. I hope you like cappuccino. If you do, you might find this exercise enjoyable. So what you need to do is, in these blank spaces, you need to fill in with the right sequencing language. So these are all one sequencing language, except for this one where you need 2. So take a break here and then do this for me. Let's have a look at the answers. So the first one should be first of all, because that's the first step, or you can use the other ones as well. First of all, steam the milk by heating 1 cup of milk in a 2-quart saucepan over medium heat. After that, let the milk simmer until bubbles form around the edges, but don't boil the milk. Then remove the pan from heat and set it on a flat surface. Next, whip the milk with an electric mixer, increasing the speed as the milk begins to thicken. At this point, measure 2 tablespoons of ground coffee for 5 to 6 ounces of water and brew. Finally, mix the coffee and milk up and then add 2 or 3 tablespoons of your preferred flavored syrup. So as you can see, these sequencing language really put these stages into order, so it makes it more logical, and because of that, they are a must when it comes to process questions. So we'll look at some complex linkers later on in Module 3, Lesson 3. And this brings us to the end of this lesson.